Hello, everyone. Welcome to our presentation today on Desert Botanical Gardens and Bad Elf. I appreciate everybody that has made it today to our webinar. There's a lot of familiar faces in the attendee list, so it's great to see you all. I want to, before we get started, I want to mention that we have a quick poll question, introductory question. If you don't mind, while we wait just a few more seconds to let everybody join, if you don't mind, go ahead and fill out that poll question just so that we can get some additional information about you all. I also want to say that my name is Nicholas Smolowski. I work at Bad Elf. I am the Geospatial Solutions Director. Additionally, we have David Grafton, our GIS analyst and lead trainer here today. We will also be working with the Botanical Garden, so the Phoenix Desert Botanical Garden to be specific, and team members Aaron and Raul. So I just wanted to make a quick shout out to everybody that has participated in putting together this presentation. At any time during the next 30 minutes or so, if you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat or the question windows. We will certainly address them at the end of the show. In case you don't know who Bad Elf is at this point, or you're with somebody that has not heard about Bad Elf, we're going to make sure that you understand who we are, what we do, and how we differentiate. We're also going to give you a brief introduction of the Desert Botanical Gardens located in gorgeous and sunny Phoenix, Arizona. We're going to go ahead and talk about what the OG or original collection process that had been used at the Desert Botanical Garden for the last number of years. What's neat about the Desert Botanical Garden is that they have been cutting edge since the beginning with their geospatial mapping program. So we're going to review kind of what they were doing in the past and how they've gotten to today. We're going to talk about their current process, right? So using some Bad Elf equipment and some really powerful GIS software from ESRI or Esri. We're going to talk about flexible features, and so how the Desert Botanical Gardens use different survey methods and leverage different modalities to get all their field mapping completed. A little bit of a close part to me and our team, being a lot of us are from Arizona or lived in Arizona. We will also talk about our desert cactus surveys. And so specifically at the Desert Botanical Garden, we have saguaros and hedgehog cacti. If you are unfamiliar, if you've ever seen a picture of a cactus and you see that very iconic looking cacti that has large branches that extend, very old, actually protected, those are saguaros, and they're only found in the Sonoran Desert in Arizona, so that's pretty interesting. And then we'll also be talking about hedgehog cacti, which are very small mammalian cacti, so pretty cool, very desert-specific plants and how they were mapped. As I mentioned before, we're going to have a Q&A session at the end for about 5 minutes. So about 25 minutes for the presentation, about 5 minutes for the Q&A at the end, and hopefully we can get you all out of here in time. So let's start with what the Bad Elf Flex is and really what Bad Elf is. Bad Elf is an alternative, low-cost GNSS provider. We create global positioning systems in a kind of different limelight. We are absolutely in the geospatial industry. We've been around for about 12 years. We got our feet wet in aviation and marine, have moved more into the GIS and mapping, and then most recently into the fully survey grade, engineering grade data collection. We have three buzzwords we like to talk about when we think about the Bad Elf Flex specifically, and we do have some other products which we'll talk about in a second, but we say we are accurate, affordable, and versatile. When I say accurate, of course, in these days, accuracy is addictive, and we all want to have the highest accuracy possible, especially as we collect data to fill out our digital twin, right? As we continue to map our world and transcend towards something like Meta, where we are working in a 3D virtual environment, it is more and more important to collect high accuracy data, whether that's from different types of sources. Certainly as we continue to build out urban areas and we need to mitigate risk for utilities and pipe strikes and all the different things that can happen in a urban and or even a rural environment as we continue to build infrastructure. We're also affordable. I mentioned earlier that Bad Elf as a whole, we are an alternative low-cost GNSS provider. You can see there that the Bad Elf Flex pictured in the image can go as low as $3,000 for our standard version, $6,000 for our extreme accuracy version. That's unlocked. That means fully survey grade all day, every day. And about $16,000 if you're looking for a traditional UHF radio-based rover package. Now, one thing I do want to make mention is that I say roundabout, because if you are, for an example, a government agency, we do have GSA and educational discounts if you're part of the government or educational or nonprofit organization. And so we are extremely affordable. Obviously, versatility is also a very important feature. No project is too big or small, too simple or complex. With the Bad Elf Flex being as affordable as it is, but also as sturdy. If you've ever felt the Flex, or you can see it there, it is actually an aluminum cast. We powder coat it. It stands up to some really crazy ruggedized conditions. Being in the desert, it's extremely hot. We also have Flexes deployed all over the world in very cold and rainy and tropical, all the different conditions and biomes that you can imagine. So we're extremely versatile. All right, so we talked a little bit about accuracy and that importance and how it can actually be addictive. If you are familiar with Bad Elf, and perhaps you've been around the Bad Elf world for quite some time, you maybe recognize in the top left-hand side of this chart here, the GNSS surveyor. So we have some hockey puck kind of looking units, a gray unit, the Pro Plus, a yellow unit, the GNSS surveyor. These are what we call kind of mapping grade accuracies. They're a 1 meter device. They're very prolific. We've got them in every type of agency across the globe, from state and local government to Fed government to mom and pop survey shops to large GIS engineering firms. But what we're going to be really talking about today, especially when we talk about small cacti like mammalia cacti and hedgehog cacti, where that spatial resolution needs to be very high because you're mapping a small object, we really want to talk about the Bad Elf Flex. So we've got the standard Flex and extreme Flex. You can see here, it's very versatile in the fact that we have different accuracy levels depending on your needs, whether you're in that GIS grade, say 1 to 2 feet, or you're going to go to that fully engineering grade, be a fraction of an inch if you're mapping a small utility or a cacti like we're going to be looking at today. All right, and so continuing with the Flex, we mentioned that it is flexible in the type of accuracy, right? Well, these are the types of correction, so the way that the Bad Elf Flex can be accurate. If you are unfamiliar, GPS or GNSS, Global Navigation Satellite Systems, listens to radio signals emitted from satellites in space that give a position. That would be what we call autonomous positioning, right? In the United States of America and different parts around the world, regionally speaking, we also have SBAS, the satellite-based augmentation system, in which a different set of satellites or constellation of satellites help correct those GNSS constellations to give you a higher accuracy. SBAS is sort of a default mode these days in most of the developed world. And you can see there with SBAS, certainly in the North American area, you're looking at about 1 to 2 feet or 25 to 70 centimeters of accuracy. And this is just included. The cons being regional, because some parts of the world are not online with SBAS. For an example, if you're in Australia, SBAS is coming online as we speak. And so that's kind of exciting. We also have the ability to do L-band satellite corrections for about 1/3 of a foot, so 4 to 10 centimeters. This can be utilized anywhere in the world. This is another set of satellites that send down corrections to our Bad Elf Flex. What's nice about this one is it doesn't require internet, but you would need to use a token. We also do RTK, so real-time kinematics. This is a way to get extremely high accuracy in a network setting where you have internet or LTE coverage, Wi-Fi, where you can connect into a local provider, like in Arizona, where there's the Arizona Department of Transportation. Most states have their own correction networks that you have the ability to log into. That's going to be 1 to 2 centimeters, so a fraction of an inch. Again, if you're mapping something very small, like a utility or a hedgehog cacti, this is the type of accuracy system you're going to be looking at. Additionally, we've got 0.1 navigation. This is a special system that we've built in and integrated natively in our Bad Elf Flex. Effectively, it is also an RTK system. However, it is built in. It's a one-button click. You can see there, anywhere in the contiguous United States, you get 10 centimeters or better. That's a very modest number. The truth is, most places we've done testing, you're at 1 to 2 centimeters. Last but not least, our newest addition to the Flex contingency here is our base rover option, in which you could use 2 Flex units in tandem with a UHF radio solution to get survey grade accuracy anywhere in the world. This is a great option if you are out in the bush, you're in the sticks, you don't have access to the internet, maybe you're in a developing country, somewhere in Africa or maybe South America, right? And you just don't have access to some of the systems that we have here, say North America or Europe. The point here is the Battle Flex has a lot of options to get you the accuracy you need. We want to give you the power with one unit, that flexibility, all under the hood of one unit, all under the roof of one unit, right? We don't want to sell you disparate units and have you working with different things. The goal is here to make it as simple as possible and as flexible as possible for you. All right, at this point, I am going to be quiet and I'm going to pass the microphone over to Dave, and Dave's going to take it from here.
Yeah, thanks for the great introduction to the Flex, Nick. The Desert Botanical Garden has always been a pleasure to work with throughout our Pioneer Package training program, but they've also had a very strong presence in our local GIS community, often hosting meetups in the Phoenix Geo Group and participating in events with the nearby Arizona State University. They have an extremely important role in the community by advancing excellence in education, research, exhibition, and conservation of Sonoran Desert plants. So I was honored to have the opportunity to assist them in the process of achieving that. The Flex is certainly not their first venture into the world of GIS, though. With over 30,000 plants to not only locate, but monitor and maintain, it's always been critical they have a system to keep track of their vast inventory. Since the garden exists to showcase and educate the public on living, changing plants, an extra challenge is presented where not only the location of all their plant assets need to be stored, but their status and condition as well. At the beginning, they relied on paper maps on graph paper to keep track of plants around the grounds, which were mapped using leveling instruments and estimations. Tags were and still are used to mark information on the plant itself about info such as the source of the plant, dates, and of course, the taxonomic description. But as technology progressed, so did the garden. They moved on to using real-time kinematics, or RTK, using a nearby base station to provide corrections to their GNSS receiver. They were able to create digital maps from a wide variety of methods, including the digitization of their paper maps, to handheld GNSS devices like the Bad Elf GNSS surveyor, offsets using GPS location and aerial imagery, as well as their pole-mounted survey grid receiver. Time passed, though, and soon that model became outdated as well, which brought them over to the Bad Flex. So the garden decided to go with our Pioneer Package training program packaged with Bad Flex Extreme, which we hosted on site with a couple members of the team. This afforded us the opportunity to not only perform hands-on training by collecting points according to our recommended workflow around the garden, but also experience firsthand how the garden was using the unit and potential applications where they could fully leverage all the technology. So it was great having the chance to visualize the work they're doing with the unit, from mapping utilities to their new Plant and People of Sonoran Trails exhibit, and of course, the methods of inventorying their vast plant collection. We were able to get them RTK corrections from our partner Point One Navigation after the local base station was experiencing some technical difficulties. And although this training can be very valuable for your team online or in person, it's always nice having the in-person training to see fellow GIS folks face-to-face, especially after a couple of years of social distancing. So the garden is primarily leveraging tools from the Esri or ESRI ArcGIS ecosystem, consisting of 2 primary components, ArcGIS Pro and ArcGIS Field Maps. ArcGIS Pro handles the desktop side of things, including form configuration, point symbology, projection, and transformation settings, as well as database management, of course. Since ArcGIS Field Maps, the mobile data collection app, updates the points in real time, a GIS analyst can view the changes in real time using Pro in the comfortable AC of the office and can communicate with the field worker if any inconsistencies arise or to direct them to their next assignment. ArcGIS Maps, as I mentioned, is the mobile component of the tandem. By simply connecting the Flex via Bluetooth to the mobile device running field maps, the Flex delivers sub-meter all the way down to sub-centimeter accuracy for your digital maps depending on your needs. Just ensure you have the antenna height as well as the location profile set up correctly, and the survey grade flex pinpoints locations on your map with survey grade precision. This allows you to locate features after the fact, as well by using the compass function that displays the bearing and distance to your target location. So if you're trying to find a map, show you exactly how far you are away and which direction you have to travel, and it'll show that target on the map relative to the blue dot where you're located to help you navigate to a specific plant or location quite easily. As well as the garden is also interested in more information than just the location. So field maps comes with highly configurable forms that allow you to create a drop-down list for fields and collect all the GNSS metadata you need to prove data integrity and enter in notes and take photographs. So you have all the information you need about all of your features, any asset you're trying to track. A new feature offered by Field Maps that's extremely relevant to anyone working with plants are contingent values. So what these do, they automatically suggest and populate genus and species fields, as well as any other sort of attribute you're trying to track. It's just especially relevant for this after the user selects the common name. So in this scenario, you'll select the white ironbark, and you'll get eucalyptus, as well as the species Latin name automatically populated. So you're not having to select anything from a massive list or typing in anything yourself. This drastically reduces the time and effort necessary to add taxonomic descriptions. So now I'm going to turn it over to Raul from Desert Botanical Garden to explain how the garden plans to use the Flex.
Hi, my name is Raul Puente Martinez. I'm the curator of living collections and research botanist for the Desert Botanical Garden in Phoenix, Arizona. And in our living collection, since the garden was founded in 1939, and since about 1970s, we start mapping our living collection, which currently we have more than 26 plants in our database. And we rely on the accuracy of the maps because we are currently doing a lot of inventories for our plants, and we need to keep track of them. We have been using GPS since 2000, the year 2005, and since then we have been using several brands of GPS. We have gone with Topcon, we have gone with Trimble, Leica, and what we are using, and we are very happy to using, is the Botanical Flex. It's a new GPS for us that is giving us all that accuracy, sub-centimeter accuracy that we require in our mapping, and a much more affordable price than any of the other GPSs that we're using. So we use that extensively here in the grounds of the garden, but we also at Desert Botanical Garden, we have an extensive conservation program, that we're studying some of the endangered cactaceae, orchids, agaves, and a number of plants outside the garden grounds. And we also have needs of mapping, with a higher accuracy for these orchids and these cactus that we need to be able to go back and relocate. So one of the species that we are currently involved is with the Arizona hedgehog cactus, one of the endangered species, that is right here growing very close to Phoenix between Superior and Globe, Arizona. So the distribution range of these species is only about 25 square kilometers, and there's an endangered species that we recently have been reintroducing. We have propagated some cuttings and some plants for reintroduction. The species has been endangered for many years. It was introduced in the Endangered Species Act in the year of 1979. And since then, there are several pressures to the conservation threats, such as road construction. There is threats of mining, around the range of these species, and more recently fires. That recent fire impacted about half of the population of the range of these species. So many species, many plants were burned, beyond recovery. So now the next project will be to reintroduce 300 and more plants into the original range for these species. And because of that, we need to be able to revisit and monitor all these plants. So we need to get a high accuracy, to find the plants. And we think that the flex will.
So as Raul mentioned, we have an exciting trip coming up this Friday. We tried to do this last week, but unfortunately the weather did not want to cooperate. It actually does rain in Arizona, contrary to popular belief. Yeah, with our exciting trip this Friday planned, where we're going to leverage GNSS technology, as long as with a couple of accessories that can be paired with the Flex to really just maximize our accuracy and efficiency of the workflow. So, as Raul mentioned, with the telegraph fire, the devastating telegraph fire ripped through 180,000 acres of vibrant Sonoran Desert just east of Phoenix, home to the habitat of hundreds of hedgehog cacti. Desert Botanical Garden took the initiative to revitalize the population by replanting dozens of the native and endangered cacti. However, they need to track the condition of each cactus and have the ability to locate them, to evaluate the growth, and water them if necessary. Since the fire occurred in a remote location with spotty cellular coverage, we'll be deploying our base rover setup of 2 flexes and 2 radios. This works by setting up 1 flex and the base on a known location or a new one to be post-processed later, and then transmitting those corrections via UHF radio to the other flex, which is the rover, to collect the locations of cacti with survey-grade accuracy. So it's just a matter of setting up the base, making sure that location is known, and then you can go ahead and use the other flex like normal, as long as you have that radio connected. So it's all made easy with our intuitive checklist guiding you along the way. Keep posted to check out our video of the trip. One last technology we recommend anyone working with plant assets, they should definitely leverage laser offset. So it's fully incorporated within both ArcGIS field maps as well as our Battle Flex app. Laser offsets use distance and angular data collected by a laser rangefinder. So you just look down the sight of a laser rangefinder, shoot the laser, and it allows you to calculate the location of objects that you can see, but not necessarily physically reach with the GPS itself. So this makes a great option when you're collecting locations of plants, especially in the Sonoran Desert, with the potentially fragile biological soil crust and a plethora of thorns and needles that I'm sure Arizona is known for. So it also allows for the collection of height. So for instance, if you're interested in the height of a saguaro, you can shoot the base and then the top to collect the height, as well as rapid data collection without having to move from one spot to the other. So just as with base rover, this whole laser offset process is checklist based, and it'll guide you along the way, ensure you're not forgetting any critical components. So that's about it for me. Thanks for joining us with the webinar without our collaboration with Desert Botanical Garden. Aaron from the garden is here to help answer any questions, as well as me and Nick. So thank you again. And throw your questions in the chat and we'll do our best to answer them. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Dave. That was awesome. If you would, Dave and Aaron, if you can, please turn on your cameras. If you would, we'll go ahead and open up the Q&A piece. I've got a question. What is the UHF radio's functional distance between base and rover? I can answer that. So by standard, it is a 2-watt radio. And so we can get about 10 kilometers standard, so let's say around 7 miles, give or take. Keeping in mind that a UHF radio is line of sight, so you'd always want to try to posture that radio on some higher ground. You wouldn't want to put it in any type of canyons. Obviously, trees and steep topography can impact that UHF radio distance, but usually, like I said, in normal conditions, you're about 10 kilometers. Now, we also have a 35-watt radio option, which would give you a very far distance, but if you are interested in that option, please go ahead and just reach out to Bad Elf. You can do sales@bad-elf.com, or you can email David. You can see the email address on the screen there, and we can get you a little bit more information about that UHF radio. We've got another question, and this one is going to actually be for the Desert Botanical Garden. Aaron, if you don't mind, you could answer this one. What's been the biggest challenge so far for you managing the GIS at the garden?
We just have a really huge collection. It's been a process just learning how to accession plants because we give each plant its own unique identifier in the garden, which is connected to another database, Living Collections. So, I mean, one of the bigger challenges too has just been learning all the plant names because that's really important for identifying them out in the garden. Just being able to walk out there and say like, oh, that's, this plant, that's an agave salmiana. It really helps with picking up the pace for getting the new plants accessioned in the garden. So, but the Flex is useful for just making that process quicker too. So.
That's wonderful. Erin, I just have to ask, and how many estimated plants are you all managing out there right now, if you had to guess?
So I think Raul said 26,000. That sounds about right. I think we actually have about 50,000, including stuff in the back, because we keep a lot of plants in propagation and our research area too.
Yeah, so just a few.
Just a couple.
Let's see here. So we got another question about the base rover setup. And this one, maybe Dave, you can help with. Does the Bad Elf Flex base rover system account for offset of the laser rangefinder? I think what they're saying is, can we use the laser rangefinder and a base rover?
Yes, absolutely. So So once you get the base and the rover connected, the rover effectively functions like just your typical, Bad Elf Flex in extreme mode. So it'll certainly calculate all the offsets you need. So like, again, you just mount up the laser rangefinder to your pole, shoot your target, and then the Flex app as well, ArcGIS field maps will automatically just calculate in the background of how far away that object is, and then where it'll show up on your map with the correct location. So yeah, certainly once you just go through the base rover setup with our checklist-based workflow, once you get that connected, and you're good to start collecting data like normal. You really don't have to think about the base. It's kind of set and forget. So a really smooth process.
Would you say set and forget?
Yes.
Okay, we've got another question. This one I think would be for Erin, but maybe Dave, you could chime in too. How does the Bad Elf Flex work with the canopy cover that's provided at the garden? Is it doing okay with all the trees? And I saw some photos there as well, just to back up the question. There was some metal, structure. How's it functioning out there, Erin?
So it works really well under the trees. We haven't had any problem with tree canopy, but the metal structures do disrupt the signal a little bit. They work on the edge pretty well, but as soon as you go under it, it just loses a little bit of accuracy.
Fair enough. Yeah, sounds pretty par of the course. We've got another follow-up question. Attendee is actually asking about the mount on the pole. It will offset the rangefinder an inch or two, I assume. So Dave, maybe you can talk about how you kind of just quickly set up that rangefinder with the Flex and how it handles offsets.
Yeah, great question there. So typically the accuracy using a rangefinder is going to be it's going to be significantly above that inch or two. Typically what's reported is going to be about 6 inches when you're using rangefinder for offsets. So that's that inch or two offset from the pole is kind of rendered somewhat irrelevant. But if you did want to eliminate that factor, you could certainly go ahead and collect your control point when you're starting the offset process. The control point is what all of your offsets are going to be based off of. And then you can just shift your pole a little bit with an inch or two in the laser rangefinder's direction. That way it's directly over that point you just measured, completely eliminating that process. So so if you were definitely concerned about that, you could certainly just kind of offset the pole a little bit and then shoot all your rangefinder shots over your control points. So certainly a good workaround if you are concerned about that.
Oh, that's great. I've got another question for you, Erin. Does the Desert Botanical Garden host any of the tree data online, or are people able to see any of the mapping data, like through some online AGOL maps or through the Desert Botanical Garden website, or do you guys disseminate that information at all?
We do. Actually, our Living Collections database is fully public, so people can log onto that website, view all of our data. They may not get as much data as we could get if you had a login, but If anyone ever needs data, I believe we're willing to share. We do host some layers on ArcGIS Online. So.
And what would be the best way to, say, get in contact with you, Erin, or the Desert Botanical Garden?
You could send me an email.
Okay. And so if anybody has any questions about that, we can certainly get you Erin's email address. I know Erin is also on LinkedIn. You can Google search Desert Botanical Garden. I'm sure you can find it multiple different ways. All right, let me see here. So we are a few minutes after the time. So I want to make sure that if there are any other questions out there that we can get them answered. So last chance on questions. Anybody else? Oh, we got one more. So maybe we'll leave with this. This is a good one. Erin, what's the future of GIS mapping at the Desert Botanical Gardens? What's the next step? What are y'all excited about?
Oh my gosh. I mean, we use GIS for so many things. We actually use it for multiple departments here too, not just the plants. So, I mean, really the sky's the limit. We're hoping to do lots of different analyses, you know, some shade analysis, tree cover analysis. We have a big saguaro mapping project as well that the public can help with. That happens like early on in the year, like January, February. Because saguaros are, you know, one of our cardinal species. So we want to make sure that they're doing okay. So.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. Well, I just want to say thank you so much, Erin, for working with Bad Elf and doing such a great job out of the gardens. I've been there several times over the years, and it's absolutely a stunning walkthrough. If you're in the desert, you're in the Phoenix area, maybe you're there for some sporting event or playing golf or traveling for work or pleasure, highly recommend swinging through the Desert Botanical Garden. It is absolutely stunning. No place like it on Earth. So thank you very much, Erin. We appreciate your hard work. Dave, any wise words to close us out here, sir?
No, just really appreciate the collaboration, and really looking forward to Friday when we're going out to the Globe area for the hedgehog factor survey. So yeah, keep posted on that. Check out our YouTube channel, the Bad Elf, and receive our follow-up. So yeah, thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate your time. Till next time. Bye.